Every day. Good afternoon and welcome to the Big Show. We call it the Big Show every single afternoon. We try and do the best we can do to sort of break everything down that goes on in sports, have a little bit of fun, whatever. Try and make sure that we can laugh a little bit also and everything else. And also give you some analysis of Pittsburgh sports or, the Steelers or whatever. So with that being said, the Steelers actually played a game the other night. And it was a preseason game. So there's that. But that if you somebody that reads into results of the preseason game, I think here's the thing. I think the one thing that is a takeaway from the game to me is that Mason Rudolph is good enough to be a really pretty good backup for the Steelers. I'm not going to go crazy. The topic we came up with was, is he going to put pressure on Aaron Rodgers? I'm not going to go crazy with that. Because obviously the Steelers believe that Aaron Rodgers is their guy and they're not going to play him in the preseason. I mean, Mike Tomlin, he was on the Steelers.com or whatever that website is that Dale Lawley and them write for. It's actually a Steelers publication, and he was asked, what do you think about these coaches who are making the decisions to not play their starting quarterback in the preseason? And he said, you're probably looking at one. Meaning, he's probably not going to play Aaron Rodgers. He just isn't. So that tells me that they don't think there's any danger at all of Aaron Rodgers having, somebody push him. Now, I think the flip side of it is when you look at what happened in that game, Mason Rudolph looked like a guy who's a veteran. He looked like a guy who kind of knows what he's doing. And I think we've seen that. I mean, what's funny to me is the storyline with Mason Rudolph has really changed completely from when he used to play till now. I mean, it's taken him, 7 or 8 seasons or whatever it's been, but he looks like he's very comfortable in the pocket. He looks like he's very comfortable running the offense. He looks like he's very comfortable playing the position of quarterback in the NFL. So, that being said, he should look good, right? And I think that's the biggest thing to me when I looked at the game. I'm not ready to declare Mason Rudolph a star. I don't think anybody with a brain is. I don't, these preseason games don't mean a ton other than, you get a chance to see your team on the field a little bit, maybe get a chance to get a flavor for how good somebody is or whatever. I mean, if you listen to the guys in Cleveland, they think they won the Super Bowl the other night because their rookie quarterback was relatively decent. It's not how it works. Doesn't matter what happens in the preseason for the most part, but I do think that it's not completely meaningless either. And I think, again, what we saw from Mason Rudolph is that if the Steelers, if Aaron Rodgers goes down for a few weeks, I do believe that he's good enough that he can probably, they can win some games with him. He looks like a veteran quarterback who's very confident in what he's doing. He looks like he's a guy that has a chance to basically be good enough for them to win games. That's what I would tell you. And I think that's what we saw on Friday night. Now, people are going crazy about Skylar Thompson. I get it. I know what his numbers were. I know, but Mason Rudolph at least was playing against some semblance of an NFL roster. I mean, Skylar Thompson, and I get it, he was playing with a number of guys who probably aren't going to be in the Steelers, but by the time, he got in the game, and then when he started getting cooking, especially in the second half, well, I mean, who was he really playing against? And let's not forget that in the preseason, you're playing against the most vanilla, the most watered down defenses out there. Teams aren't blitzing. Teams aren't going after the quarterback. Teams aren't showing you all kinds of exotic coverages, and they're not showing you anything really. They're just trying to play as basic of a defense as they can because, again, they don't want to put stuff on film. They don't want other teams to see what they might do in the regular season when the lights are on. That's what I'll tell you is the truth in so many ways. So I feel like it's one of those things where I look at it and I say, Skylar Thompson was fine. Looks to me like you've got a decent third-string quarterback. Looks to me like, maybe he'll help in some capacity at some point. But I just don't know that, I just don't know that I want to get too worked up about Skylar Thompson from the other night. Because, he looked like he was playing against a bunch of guys who are probably going to be working in warehouses soon enough. So that's, to me, the thing about Mason Rudolph is I believe that he's a guy who really actually can help this team win. And I believe that he showed that he's a good backup quarterback. And I've had this discussion with many, many people when they signed Mason Rudolph. And I said, the thing about Mason Rudolph is, his last stint here, he changed the perception among some people just because he played pretty well for three games or 4 games or whatever it was. And even in the playoff game, he threw the pick in the end zone, but he was okay. I mean, I think what he showed in that stretch is he can be a reasonably good option at quarterback. Whereas I don't know that you believe that. When he was the starter in 2020 or whatever year it was, 2019 or whatever year it was with him and Doc, there was a lot of things that went against him. I think at least most people now say, you know what, he's a reasonably good option as a backup quarterback. And since he's a reasonably good option as a backup quarterback, bottom line to me is I don't know really why there are still some people who are, not sold on the idea of him, of them being good enough with him as the backup. And actually, even if he has to play a lot, not a lot, well, I don't know, maybe. But if he has to play a lot, I think they can win some games with him too. I think the team is good. And I think that the structure of the team is good. And I think Mason Rudolph has grown and matured and become a guy who looks like he could play quarterback for them. Period. And that's where I would tell you it comes down to, it just comes down to one of these things where I just believe that it is important in many, many ways. It is so important, okay, for the Steelers to just continue to make sure that they work with him. And that's really what it comes down to. And I think the other thing about it is it's important also to note that the Steelers are basically going to be only as good as their 2 tackles. Broderick Jones is, I'm reading all these stories about, because again, I don't even pretend to be like some sort of expert on offensive line footwork and the technique and the technical part of being an offensive lineman. It cracks me up when I read these stories sometimes from these people, and or I read their tweets where they're talking about how this guy is got great footwork and this guy is doing this and all this other stuff. My thing is, can he block somebody or can't he? And if he can't block somebody, well, then I guess he's not really good enough, is he? I mean, that's the reality to me. And I think that's where it comes down to, this situation where I watched the other night. I think Troy fought Fa'utano is probably going to be okay, but he might be a little further away than we think. That's the scary thing. That's the scary thing. So to me, I think it's one of those things where, Fa'utano Fa'utano is maybe good enough, but maybe he's not. Broderick Jones, same thing. And I think that's, to me, where we have to, really, really look at it from that standpoint. So I feel like it's one of those things that it's important to note that basically, there he is. There he is. I was trying to find him, and we found him. Thank God. Let's bring him in. This is our good friend Jason Mackey from the Post-Gazette. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Paul. How are you, my man?
I'm good. I'm doing really well.
I'm trying to find a place to put my laptop out in Latrobe.
Oh, okay.
Not going well.
There's always, that beautiful thing about being out in Latrobe, that you're out in the middle of a forest somewhere. Or out in the middle of the wilderness, so finding Wi-Fi can be a challenge, right?
Yeah, I can only go so far from the building. I'm finding that out. So I'm going to stay close to the building and hold my laptop on this sign here. We should be all right.
That'll be good. I mean, you don't want to go into the media room and, share with all of those other people in there?
I can. There are other people there. There are other people. I don't want to annoy them any more than I already do.
Okay, well,
believe it or not, yeah.
We are talking about the Steelers. I was talking about the Steelers, Jason, and although there's some people that are ready to put Mason Rudolph in the Hall of Fame, and even worse, Skylar Thompson. My takeaway is that looks like they've got two competent backup quarterbacks or whatever, and if they need them for a game or two, they'll be fine. I think a greater question is the tackles on this team.
Yeah,
because Troy Fa'utano, I think, will be good enough. But it looks to me like he's probably a little further away than we thought. And then, of course, there's Broderick Jones and Dylan Cook or whatever his name is, and Spencer Anderson or whatever his name is. And I'm looking at it and saying maybe we're not talking enough about that position.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we are. I don't know. I was watching that game on Saturday intently for the tackles, Paul. I thought it was really good. I think it's all things working together. One of the things I was watching today was how quickly the ball got out. I tweeted something to this effect, but over the course of 20 passes, I was looking at how quickly the ball was snapped and Aaron Rodgers threw it. I mean, it gets out of there most times under 3 seconds. A couple times it was under 2 seconds. Like, I'm not saying that, that's going to neutralize or take away the importance of Broderick Jones and Troy Fa'utano. Obviously, they need to be really good. But if you're getting the ball away that quickly, I think it's going to be important. And, man, I don't know what you think about what Broderick Jones did on Saturday night. I liked it. I thought he and Fa'utano were plenty good enough. I think they can be good enough. I certainly worry about the offensive line depth. That's fair. But if you tell me those guys are going to play all 17 regular season games, I'll sign up for it.
Well, yeah, again, I mean, I don't know. I thought Broderick Jones was just sort of okay. I know Troy Fa'utano did some okay things too, but he also got a penalty. And, there was a couple of other plays where he probably, wasn't quite as good as he needed to be. But if those two guys are good enough, I think this offense has a chance to be pretty good, correct? I mean, if those two guys are good enough. Agree. I look at the pieces. I still would like to see a better second receiver, but some of these other guys, like Roman Wilson and those guys, they're all sort of showing you something, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd like to see a second receiver too, Paul. Another practice without Calvin Austin today. Roman Wilson has looked good, and it's interesting to see him and Aaron Rodgers talk. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been on his butt quite a bit, I think in a good way. Like, it's not been negative. It's just been that they're holding Roman Wilson to a really high standard. I agree with you. I think this offense can be explosive. DK Metcalf is going to have a gigantic year, I think. I mean, the number of times that Aaron Rodgers is looking for him and then the ball getting out quickly And Aaron Rodgers, like his pre-snap reads and being able to get the ball to DK Metcalf and let DK fly, boy, I like that a lot. And we saw a lot of that, just timing stuff real quick, and it's all pre-snap reads. So, yeah, another wide receiver would really cement it for me. I like what they're going to be able to do with Darnell Washington was a storyline on Saturday. I thought he was impressive. And what Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth were going to be able to do. One of Aaron Rodgers' best throws today was a deep touchdown to Pat Freiermuth over the middle. But a lot of it is scheme. But I do think this offense, yes, if the offensive line can hold up, it's going to be pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, I think scheme is important. Jonnu Smith, I think, is going to be a good addition for them. I still am a little nervous about the fact that they've got, 4 tight ends and 3 of them aren't good blockers. But I'm
details,
sure
Paul, details.
I'm sure they can figure something out. If I'm not mistaken, it was a whole 2 days ago, and I'm getting to the point where, I can't remember what happened an hour ago. But if I'm not mistaken, Mount Washington caught a touchdown pass in that game, correct?
Yep.
Listen, it's the preseason, and, although the Browns are, planning a parade on Wednesday for what happened the other night.
They're retiring a jersey, right?
Yeah, they're retiring a jersey. They're getting themselves a gold jacket, it's fitted for, their quarterback. But my thing is, I try and be really measured with all of this stuff. The one thing I did say, Jason, like before you got on about Mason Rudolph, is that he looks like a mature veteran backup quarterback. Like he when he played in 2019 or 20 or 21, whatever year it was, where he played with Duck Hodges, and even after that, he always kind of looked like somebody who was overwhelmed by the moment, and he sort of had that happy feet and sort of had the idea that he was never really comfortable in the pocket. But I think, we saw him play those 3 or 4 games at the end of the year. Was it last year, the year before, whatever it was? And I think that if you look at him, he looks like a really mature kind of veteran guy who could probably be, a Charlie Batch-like figure who's their backup for the next 4 or 5 years.
No doubt. And I think there's value in that, man. I have absolutely no problem with that. I don't look at this scenario and think that, Mason Rudolph is going to beat out Aaron Rodgers, or they're not going to give Aaron Rodgers every single chance to play. Like, of course Aaron Rodgers is going to play, but he's 41. Something can happen. And I like the idea, the certainty that Mason Rudolph gives them. Like, all is not lost if Mason Rudolph has to play. We saw that on Saturday. We're seeing that in practice every day. Mason Rudolph is every bit as decisive, if not more, than Aaron Rodgers with the football. He's had a really nice command of the offense. I agree with you, man. I think back, like that tie, the game that was the tie against the Detroit Lions, and just how bad Mason Rudolph looked. Like, I didn't think he looked like an NFL quarterback early on. And then we saw in 2023, obviously evolved into something really nice. And I think he's more of that than he is the first one. I think he's a perfectly capable backup. Maybe he's more, but for the Steelers, the way he's being paid and the opportunity he's going to have, I really like the amount of certainty that he gives them.
Well, on a different subject, I think since you're up there, you probably were a part of the scrum. The news, I would say, or newsier things, or whatever.
Yeah, I was there.
It wasn't necessarily news, but it's the first time he spoke since the news broke. And, of course, we're talking about Cam Hayward, who says that last year he told them, when I have an all-pro season, I'm coming back and I want to renegotiate my deal. And now he says that in February he came back to them. And, of course, this is where we're at. And I thought the line that's no doubt going to sit really well with most fans and Yinzers is when he said, I can't justify playing another
at the number I'm playing at.
At the number I'm playing at. I'm sure that's not going to send these guys, send some of these people into orbit.
Man, there was a way to do this, Paul, and what Cam Hayward did is not it. Man, if I would have come out and said the place where he has leverage is just advancing him some of the money. And you can say, look, I negotiated that deal and I told them if I have an all-pro year, I'm going to ask for more money. I'm asking for more money. I'm not asking for a new contract. I'm asking for money on my contract to be forwarded to me now to get me paid more, commensurate with my production. I think people will go there. Basically, all you're saying is we're going to pay you a certain way. Like Cam Hayward wants a new deal. He wants a new contract.
Right.
I can't understand. I don't understand that. You're not going to get any public sympathy. Every reaction that I've seen to this point, you're probably the same way. That they're telling Cam Hayward, go take a hike, man. The economy's tough out there. It sucks for all of us. I can't get down with that. I like Cam Hayward. I respect Cam Hayward, but I don't agree with him on this, not in the least.
What did Mike Tomlin have to say? I see the video up, but I haven't heard it because obviously I started the stream when the videos all started hitting social media. What did he have to say?
Yeah, so they talked one after the other on the practice field adjacent to Chuck Noll Field. I was there for both of them. And Tomlin downplayed a lot of it, as you would expect him to. He said that he's been with this enough with Cam, and he doesn't need Cam to work a lot now, and Cam's not a distraction and whatever else. I mean, I fully understand that. And I don't think Cam is a distraction. They have younger guys who need the work. If this was not happening, if we were just worried about Cam Hayward's readiness, would anybody sit here and legitimately worry if Cam Hayward was going to be ready for the season? Of course not. You're annoyed because of the contract, and it's stupid, and that's fair. But, I don't think this is a distraction. I don't think it's a big deal. I just think it's something that, that they shouldn't have happened. This should have been handled long ago. If you're going to create a contract with Cam, put a bunch of incentives in it. If Cam's unhappy with where that's at, I mean, there's some fault with the team there. And you say, okay, go produce. You produce and we'll pay you. You produce like a top 10 defensive tackle, we'll pay you like a top 10 defensive tackle. No, I do understand there's some buyer's remorse here, or he's unhappy, and he kind of deserves at least some attention to it. So I don't understand why they don't just move some money around. On no planet would I rework Cam Hayward's contract to give him additional years or bend over backwards. But, if you tell me I have to kick a few dollars from his 2026 roster bonus and kick it to him now, I mean, I would do that. I would have done that back in February and this started just to prevent this scenario from occurring.
Well, one thing that's kind of interesting is I just saw one of them 75 guys. Sorry. One of the 75 guys who was reporting on the Steelers just tweeted out that Cam Hayward didn't dismiss the idea of sitting out games. I can't imagine he's going to go to that length to sit out games.
I don't think the Steelers will let it to get to that length, Paul. I mean, the answer, by the way, I was just looking at this. There are definitely options out there that could reflect that. So, I mean, the way to answer that, if you don't want to miss games, if you're Cam Hayward and said, I'm not going to let this miss games, and you're contradicting yourself by saying, I want to be out there with my guys and I want to play ball and blah, 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 and then leaving the door open to miss games. I mean, give me a break. No, nobody should be talking about missing games. We should be talking about the composition of the defense and putting more pressure on the quarterback and stopping the run and all the other, typical summer storylines. So it's senseless that we're talking about any of this stuff. And I mean, at this point, I know Cam Hayward was probably strategic in talking to the media. I think he probably thought that he would curry some favor with fans. I don't think that worked. But one way, shape, or form, he and the Steelers need to figure this out. I don't want to be talking about this. You don't want to be talking about this. Fans don't want to be hearing about this. Make it go away.
I would even say this, Jason. I'd have a hard time remembering the last time one of these situations didn't get solved and figured out at the last minute. I mean, guys like you and I, we need these storylines to keep the summer, somewhat interesting. But at the end of the day, even though we make a mountain out of a molehill all the time, in the back of our minds, or at least in the back of my mind, I know it's going to get resolved. Maybe it's going to be at the last minute, but sooner or later, they'll figure something out where Cam can get what he wants, the Steelers can get what they want. Might even be, like you said, converting some money into a guarantee so the Steelers can save face and not have to give a new contract, because that would be a horrible precedent to have to set.
Horrible. I don't even like the precedent for doing this, Paul. I mean, This tells me that anybody, if your production doesn't match your contract, if you gripe loud enough, you can do it. I guess the out is a lot of you aren't Cam Hayward. So we'll listen to Cam. We're not going to listen to everybody.
Here's my question to you. What if the Steelers said to him, tell you what, we'll put a bonus structure in your deal. But if you don't live up to what the baseline of this contract is, you give us some money back. There's not an athlete or agent in the world that would go for that. So to me, I get it. I hear some people all the time on the air squawking about how, I just don't understand why everyone, backs the owners all the time as if these players are not, at fault in some of this. But to me, okay, if you want to play it that way, you deserve more money when you have a good season. How about when you stink? How about you give us money back? That's never a conversation, so I don't want to hear that. Real quickly, the other one was Chris Boswell. What is up? Is he just somebody who, behind the scenes has said that he's unhappy, or is he a guy that's going to? Is he actually holding in or holding out or whatever, or is it one of these things of where that just was a sort of a story that probably his agent planted?
Yeah, Boswell is not here. I don't think he was here. He didn't talk. I should say it that way. And you know what, Paul? I want to be completely accurate. I did not take attendance. I did not see him. He did not speak on this. So, just leave that there. I see them differently. I do. I mean, I think Boswell because it's a kicker, but I mean, it's still multiple years left. If the Steelers would do something, it still breaks from their precedent, and I don't expect them to do something. I do expect, if you're going to make this situation go away, and Boswell's also underpaid a lot as a kicker, right? Like he's 11th among kickers, lowest in the AFC North. It's fair to want that to change. But at the same time, you're not going to negotiate a new contract. Did they have leverage to kick some of that money forward? Sure. Given Boswell's cap hit, I view that as much smaller. If he's asking for a new contract, I understand the Steelers maintaining precedent. I would not break precedent for that. If he's going to be satiated by moving some money around, cool. We just have less of a perspective on how Boswell feels about this because he hasn't talked about it. He hasn't been terribly public. He rarely is. That certainly fits character. So I can't really convey his thinking.
Well, I think that's the big thing. He's a kicker, so he probably has very little leverage, right? But
yeah, he's also the best in the game.
Here's the thing I will tell you. Over the last 6 or 7 years, how many games would the Steelers have lost if they had just like a sort of an average kicker that wasn't really reliable? There's a number of games that, he tied late or he was basically their only offense because every time they lined up for the most part, they knew they were getting 3 points from them. If they didn't have that, the way they like to play, I don't know, man, where would they be?
I will say this about these scenarios, Paul. Given the Steelers' cap space, money, the importance of these guys, I don't understand why they didn't just make this stuff go away a long time ago. And I don't mean new contracts. I just mean here's a little bit more money. Here's an advance on your roster bonus for next year. Shut up. Let's move along. Let's focus on the season. It seems like, at least listening to Cam Hayward talk today, that would solve the problem. I just don't know how we get here. Like if that comes up in February, how do we get to August and we're talking about a hold-in? That to me is a pretty easy solution, that we just give you a little bit more of your next roster bonus and do the same thing for Boswell and say, we'll talk contract when you're up for the next one. If you perform, you're going to put yourself in a good situation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's a big thing that it really comes down to in my mind is that, what is it that you are basically trying to accomplish by holding out or by not just taking care of this problem 3-4 months ago, and now it looks like you didn't take care of it, and that's why these two players are upset. It feels like they're going to take care of it. So why not just do it, 5 or 6 months ago?
Do it then before it's public, before we have to talk about it. Hopefully we never know. You just see a tweet or Dulac put something out or something that, they move some money around to help out Cam Hayward. Okay, fine. Whatever. Nobody cares.
Well, real quickly, because I know you're very busy, and I just but one of the main reasons I wanted you on is you wrote that column about Paul Skeens and the silliness of negotiations. I think you had a great line. What was the line you said that you would like to do something else? You'd like to win the lotto, I think, right?
Yeah, I said I'm sure they would like to get something done with Skeens. I'd also like to hit the Powerball. Neither's happening.
Right. It always cracks me up whenever I read the story interest. In a story when someone's writing out, yeah, they've got interest in this, or they've got interest in this guy, or they got interest in this. I mean, you've been a journalist a long time. I've been a journalist a long time. It's the most meaningless word that possibly you could write. Like I've said, you know what? I could say to you, Jason, you know what? I would love to. I have interest in buying the Pirates.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you the Rutherford story that I had from my Penguins beat days, Paul? He hated that too. And so Jim, he talked, God bless him, off the record all the time with reporters. And anytime that would come out, he goes, "You guys love talking about us having interest in players. Do you have any idea how many times I've expressed interest in a player?" Like in Jim's own way, like it used to irritate the crap out of him. Because, they're always calling and asking about players. They have interest in doing a lot of things. There are all these discussions. It's just like the 5% of it that makes it out to the media that then we, speaking of making mountains out of a molehill, we do that, and then people eat it up, and the whole system's broken. But, yeah, I mean, the Pirates have interest in extending Paul Skeens. Just nothing meaningful has happened.
I'm pretty sure, for instance, the Penguins and, pretty much all the other teams have interest in signing – or have interest in trading for Connor McDavid. The problem is,
that would interest them.
And you say, no, they don't. Of course they do. The best player in hockey, they all have interest in having him on their team. Just like, every team probably had interest in trading for Paul Skeens. The reality of the situation is the Pirates need to make a much better roster. And this is what I liked about what you wrote, because it's so true. He's made it pretty clear, even though he's been a pretty good company guy, it's pretty clear if you watch all of his interviews when he's approached about the future that he has no interest in playing in a team that stinks and no interest in playing in a team that has no chance to win.
You couldn't be more right, Paul. And the funny thing is, I think he would entertain an idea of an extension here. If the Pirates were what they were in 13, 14, 15, and PNC Park was rocking and the Pirates were winning 98 games and this was a great situation and they were bringing in talent and signing talent, yeah, I think Skeens would be interested. He wants to play somewhere he can win. And until the Pirates are doing that, we're wasting our time here. He's not going to entertain it. The first thing he's going to say is what's our record? Or say, and even that is fictional because they're not going to approach him. There's enough feel on both sides that we have to put a winning product on the field first. And they're a long way from doing that. And they have a very important offseason. But, I actually respect Skeens' way of looking at this too, man. He wants to win. He's not trying to cash in. I mean, he knows his day will come. He knows he's going to make a lot of money. But he wants to win, and there's nothing wrong with prioritizing that.
If you're Paul Skeens' agent, and I come to you on the Pirates, and I say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you, starting in 26, so it's 26, 27, 28, 29, which is the years that he's still under control anyway.
Yeah.
We're going to give you 4 years, $100 million. In other words, next year, instead of making that $900,000 or whatever, you're going to make $25 million. And then the 3 years after that, you make $25 million each year. Would you think about that?
For just 4 years?
For just through his arbitration.
Yeah, of course. Why not? I mean, that's not giving away any extra. Well, 4 years and 100? No, I wouldn't do that.
I was reading that Juan Soto, his first year of arbitration got $31 million, which makes me wonder in 2027, what are the Pirates going to have to pay Paul Skeens?
Yeah. I mean, now, to be fair, position players and pitchers are paid differently in arbitration. So a lot of people like to cite that Juan Soto figure. I wouldn't go to the bank with that. A pitcher is somebody who performs every 5 days. They're not going to get compensated the same way as a position player. But I get your point that it's going to be a lot of money. And so, I mean, if I'm Skeens' agent, I say, what's your offer? $100 million wouldn't do it for me. I think Paul would stand to make more in arbitration, and probably decidedly so. I see. You want that number to be high if you're Skeens. You want that number to be high because you're going to get compensated, and then if the Pirates don't want to pay that, they're going to trade you, and you probably want that. So, I mean, I'd probably resist it, But if you're only talking about arbitration years, I would at least have the conversation in case for some reason they wanted to overpay, which, let's be honest, we're talking about the Pirates. They're not going to overpay for anything.
Right.
So it's a, we're not going to get anywhere. But if you're asking me if I would entertain just the arbitration years, yeah, I'd at least have the conversation.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you jumping on and enjoy you being flexible and figuring out how to get it done up at Latrobe. Let's do it again soon, and I'll probably see you up there one day.
All right, my man. Take care, Paul. Thanks for having me.
All right, there we go. That is Jason Mackey. Wrote a pretty good story about that, to me. At least to me. I really like that story about Paul Skeens because, it started with two radio guys in town who, basically threw it around. Oh, there's, interest in the Pirates are trying to get it done. If they want to they have interest in signing Paul Skeens. Well, of course they do. Why wouldn't you? But having interest in it and actually trying to do it doesn't matter. Period. Doesn't matter. So anyway, we've got to get out of here. We'll be here tomorrow again. And once we are here tomorrow, we will continue talking about the Steelers and the Pirates and everything else. Until then, let's have, by the way, the game is always on at Archie's. Get down to Archie's on Carson Street. Archie's, home of 80-cent wings Monday through Thursday, home of the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich. So get down to Archie's and tell Archie that I sent you. Okay, now we have a shot, right? Now we have a shot to get out of here.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.